Hey guys, Zephyr Nature here. So here we have Scorpius, named after the Scorpius Rex in Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. So we'll see if she will sit still. You gotta go down, girl. Now stay. And we'll get you a nice juicy cricket. Okay, then we're able to zoom in. Yeah, it is kind of sad. They only live to be like less than a year old usually. Hey, Scorpius. Yep, you gotta eat that. Kind of just. You're just holding it, but you're not eating it. There you go. Oh. Oh, and there goes the leg severed. Yeah, any questions or anything, questions, comments, put them in the chat. I'll answer them. Um, if you have anything to say, I'll talk about it. Or if anything you want to know about the mantis, this specific individual, or just mantises in general, put that in the chat and I can answer some questions and stuff. Wow, nice and juicy. Okay, um, so basically the mantids. So what got me into them? So I used to like collect bugs. I'd go out and catch them, and so I was really interested in looking for all the different kinds of bugs I could possibly catch. I didn't really pin anything. I kind of just caught them. I later got into pinning. But when I first got into the mantids, I originally was just catching them, and I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. I want that in my collection. But then after catching them, I'm like, no, these are way too cool to just pin. You gotta. So I started keeping them as pets, and these are just wild caught mantids. Is what I have as pets. I don't buy any, but I catch them as adults. And so this is a Chinese praying mantis, which is an invasive species in the United States. I'm in Kansas, but basically this species is the world's largest species of mantis. This one is approximately 6 inches long. Um, she is very large. So it was 3 years ago. I had my first mantis as a pet, and I caught her on my college campus. Her name was Pickle because of her greenish coloration. And so with her, that's basically how I learned to take care of them. She lived up until like I caught her in October, but at that point she was by far fully grown. I had her until she died of old age in late November. It was actually over Thanksgiving break. But the thing was that um, with her, it's just I found her so late that I didn't get to spend much time with her. But she was still a really good mantis to basically learn how to do everything with, because they're apparently super easy to take care of. Um, and basically, like the cage I keep her in, well, all the mantids when I have them, I keep them in a cage. Basically, nothing in it, because if they have anything on the ground, they are going to try to snatch a prey item you put in there, and then they're going to accidentally grab like a wood chip or some gravel or something, and then they'll just try to eat that instead of the bug. So it kind of confuses them. So I keep the bottom just blank, nothing in there except for just the underside. Um, then I will put in some sticks or something for them to climb on. But even then, they don't like to climb on the sticks. They kind of just sit on the lid up and hang upside down pretty much all day long. I mean, they'll crawl around in the glass too a little bit, but mostly they just hang upside down all day long, waiting for their food. Put it in, they'll go down and they'll murder it. Um, but they're actually one of the easiest animals to take care of. I would say literally all they need is a habitat and food. Like even is in terms of water, you can give them water or like honey or something as like a treat, and they will need that water if they have like a big meal that's not very juicy. So if you feed them like a June bug or something, they're gonna want to drink something after, because those aren't very juicy. They're hard, they're crunchy, whatever. But these crickets, as you can see here, they're so juicy that the mantis doesn't need any water after that. They actually, as I figured out with one of my mantids, which was named Indominus Rex after the Jurassic World dinosaur, and she was named that because she basically, when I first got her, she would attack all of the crickets I gave her and rip them in half and not eat them. So it was basically like the Indominus Rex killing for sport. But then as I had her for longer, she got used to captivity and she started actually um, eating everything normally up until she got really old. But anyway, she was actually one I didn't give any water to, and she survived that entire time because, as it turns out, they don't need water to survive, which is a really interesting thing about them, is that they get all of the water they need from the food that they eat. So that's, as you can see, the cricket's just so juicy that she just is getting her nutrients, all of her food, all of her water from that cricket, with all those juices inside of it. Um, but the thing is, Indominus Rex actually survived until like mid-December, which is much later than one in the wild would, because in the wild they kind of die off as soon as it gets too cold for them, because uh, I mean, they could actually go a bit longer. They can actually lay egg cases up to 7 times in their life, but of course they have to be adults. The most I've had, Pickle actually laid 2 egg cases, both of which hatched out, and of course they usually mate before I find them. However, Scorpius here I found like pretty early in August, so she probably has not mated yet. she will lay a egg case or two, but it's not going to be fertilized unless she happened to mate within the like month or so before I found her, because obviously they can't mate until uh, they're adults. But let's see. So something about Chinese praying mantids. So these guys are, like I say, they're the biggest species of mantis, and they will actually eat pretty much anything. You can find photos of them on Google eating birds. You know, hummingbirds are a famous like kind of food that they'll eat. They'll take snakes, they'll take lizards, all sorts of things. I mean, they'd probably take anything their size or smaller. uh, they're really ruthless. Like they don't have a concept of how big they are. Like they'll take things bigger than them and they'll attempt to eat it. And sometimes it costs them, but usually they can actually take on pretty much anything. I've seen videos of them fighting cardinals and just like chasing them off. Like they'll bite the cardinal and the cardinal freaks out and flies away. Um, but anyway, these guys, they'll actually. So one of their predators are bats, and the thing is, the bats, like the mantis, can actually detect the bat's echolocation. So when the bat swoops down to attack the mantis can either jump and fly out of the way, or the mantis will turn around and snatch the bat and then eat it instead. It's kind of crazy. Um, but another thing is that just the way I find them, it's actually like during the day they're going to be hidden mostly inside of bushes and trees, whatever. At night they come out and they will just sit right next to a light on a building. So they basically just sit there and they're waiting for all these bugs that are coming in attracted to the light, and they'll start eating whatever gets attracted to the light when it lands next to them, because they're ambush predators. Um, but the thing is that basically I just go out at night, look around lights on the buildings around my campus, and then snatch all the ones I find, keep them as pets. But sadly, this year the only one I have is Scorpius. However, I do have two Carolina mantids, which are about one third the size, and they are a native species of mantis in the United States. Usually green, but they can be brown. One of mine I have is kind of orangish brown. Uh, but they're really interesting. The female is slightly larger than the male. They're about the same length, but the female is fatter, bigger in general. And another thing, so it's like the famous thing is that they'll like eat the uh, male when they're like mating or whatever, but that's not like a guaranteed thing. Sometimes the female will leave the male alone and not eat him, and other times the male will actually kill the female and eat her instead, which means that there don't like no eggs get to be laid. And that's it. Just depends on who's hungrier. So if the female's super hungry, she's gonna eat the male. And sometimes the thing is after laying the eggs, she gets so hungry. But the thing is, if the male is hungrier, the male will actually kill and eat her with this species. But normally, I think it was like 70% of the time or something like that, the female will eat the male, and the rest of the time, the male is fine and gets to go his separate way. Uh, but the egg laying is done much later in the year. Like it could be months later. And like I said, they can lay up to 7 egg cases. Um, I don't know. Is there anything else you want covered? Facts about them? I guess one more thing. So you'll notice the black spot on her eyes. So she has like a tiny one that's like higher up. And that is, I mean, it's not exactly her pupil since they have compound eyes. So it's slightly different than how our eyes work. But there's a much larger black dot that's farther down on her left eye. Although technically that would be her right eye. But to us looking at her, it's her left eye. Anyway, that is eye rot. And they basically get that as they get older. And it's just like they start to deteriorate as they age. So eventually they kind of go blind, or at least mostly blind. So she has that big old blind spot in her vision because of that. The other eye has a little bit, but it's not as bad as on the right eye. But yeah, she's just tearing apart that cricket. Um, I would love to have a ghost or an orchid mantis or even a giant devil mantis. Like, those things are really cool. The only downside is those ones require a whole lot more work. The thing about these, so the Chinese praying mantis and the Carolina mantis, which are the two I've had, they are both species that, like I say, they don't require water, they don't require misting. It's one of the easiest things about them is that they're not a tropical species. With like orchid mantis, for instance, you would have to be constantly missing that. I mean, it's not like the end of the world. It's just it's like way more work than you would with these guys. Like the Chinese and Carolina are some of the easiest pets to take care of. But ghost mantis, orchid mantis, giant flower mantis, they all have their extreme kind of things going on. You would have to constantly be misting them. They need a more advanced setup. I would love to have a giant devil flower mantis, but those are just, and they're about the same size as the Chinese praying mantis. They're just a little bit fatter, like not exactly fatter, but they have like a wider thorax, and kind of like fancy little shapes on their arms and legs, to kind of resemble plants and stuff. It'd be really cool. I would love to have some of those, but at the time I don't really have plans to get any. Um, but there certainly are all sorts of really cool insects and arachnids and other bugs out there that would be cool to own. Um, I think a Hercules beetle would be cool. Um, I don't know, something like that. Some maybe a rhinoceros beetle, elephant beetle. It'd be cool to have a Titan beetle, but I don't think anyone has successfully done that because last time I checked, I mean, I could totally be wrong. This could be outdated knowledge. Last time I checked, nobody had ever found a grub of a Titan beetle. So, but like I say, that was years ago and I read that. So, and that's probably over a decade ago. So maybe by now someone has. But I think that'd be cool to own a Titan beetle. But obviously, they're expensive. I mean, even just buying a dead one, it can be like $3,000 to get your hands on a Titan beetle specimen to like pin or something. Like it's expensive. But I would love to actually, yeah, either have one as a pet or just one like framed in my collection. Um, but as for yeah, plans for mantids, no, it's just. I mean, I'd love to, but at the time, I don't really have any plans to do that. But basically, once these mantids die of old age, I just pin them out in a little display case. I have one that's like just only mantids, and it's pretty cool. It has all of my past pets, and some other wild caught ones and stuff, that I had for a long time ago. But it certainly would, yeah, be awesome to have all those different species. And I've certainly seen some in captivity. I know people that have them, uh, but for me, not yet. I'm not ready for that yet. Now she's just ripping off the wings. She might actually eat the whole wing. Probably not, but that'd be interesting if she does. It's just there's not much kind of like juice or kind of meaty stuff in there. Normally they go for like the obviously the whole body and everything, but she's getting that whole wing. Um, the thing is, if they're eating a beetle, so I have fed them June bugs before, and although not Scorpius here, it was one of my one of the babies of Pickle that I raised, and Pickle's baby, I think it was Pickle Junior was the one. I fed her a June bug, and she just didn't eat much of it. Like, it was too much work for her to get through the exoskeleton of the June bug, and she basically didn't eat any of the legs because there's like nothing nutritious there really. It's just like all just chitin. Pinning, what is the full process? Okay, so for the Mantis, well, let me quickly finish up my thought with the June bug. The thing is, so the June bug thing, so they have like, they're just not much meat in them, you know what I mean? It's like, whereas a cricket, they'll actually eat even the legs of the cricket because they're kind of juicy, like, you know, the big thigh part. But that's the difference between eating a cricket and a June bug. But yeah, okay. So, pinning process. So with the Mantis, it's relatively easy, unless you want to spread the wings, but even that isn't too bad compared to some bugs. So with the Mantis, you kind of put the pin through. What I do is, I mean, you can do it through the thorax. I usually do it at the base of the, like the very front part that attaches to the thorax of the abdomen, like that part of the abdomen, and then I will like stab it into styrofoam or whatever, use other pins to position the legs, and then stick the pin in place to keep that leg there. And I'll do that with all the legs. I'll do that with the antenna. If I want to spread the wings, you can kind of just use a pin in your fingers to gently spread out the wing, and then put like a piece of paper over the wing, and then pin down the paper without stabbing the wing. And that will hold the wing in place. You basically have to wait like 1 to 2 weeks for the entire bug to like harden in place. And then after that, you're good to remove all the pins, and of course the legs won't move anymore. They're going to be stuck in that position once the Mantis dries out. And then you can take that Mantis or whatever other bug you did, and you can move that into a like display case or some kind of thing like that, a frame, whatever you want to do. I mean, there's lots of methods. Um, but there's all sorts of ways to like frame them and all that. But as for pinning, it's pretty much with all insects and arachnids. Like, I've done spiders, I've done all sorts of things. You basically, for the ones you care about to like spread the legs, so if it has long legs like a mantis, you obviously want those to be positioned. So you use the pins to kind of position the legs however you want them. With something like a I don't know, some beetles that have short legs, you just don't care about the legs, so you just stab them in the thorax or whatever and pin them. Uh, but with a mantis or a spider, you want to position the legs however you want them. So you just use the pins and kind of position the legs into what position you want them to dry in. I don't know if that makes sense, but I mean, I actually have a video. I think it's on my other channel called The Skull Seeker, and it has a video of me spreading a praying mantis. It was actually Pickle, I think, is what I was spreading in that video. I didn't do the wings. I can probably do that, like do a video after Scorpius dies of me spreading the wings on one. But yeah, on my channel, The Skull Seeker, which is just one of my other channels, uh, there is a video. I think it's just called How to Pin a Praying Mantis or something. But it shows my display case. It has two other Chinese mantids in there, and then I was pinning Pickle. And so it shows how I did that. Although, like I said, I didn't do the wings in that video. But as for the rest of the mantis, it shows what to do. But yeah, I'll try to make a new video with the wings being spread. But I put them on that channel because my Skull Seeker channel is kind of like my collection thing. So it's like my collection of taxidermy and insects and skulls and all that, like animal skulls. So that's what that channel is. It's just basically my collection of things. And then Zephyr Nature is, you know, like the Mantis videos, other animal videos, 72 Dangerous Animals, stuff like that. But it's, I mean, when I first got into pinning, it was like I didn't know what to do. You know, I caught some bugs. I didn't know how to properly pin them. Oh, she just now sees the other crickets. Okay, you want another? We can give you another. But when I first got into it, I didn't know what to do. But I kind of just Googled around, figured some things out, and then, okay, over here, over here, over here. Um, Figured some things out based on what I found on Google, and of course I can help with anything in a video. Um, but I I kind of just, as I was starting, I was like not too good at it, but I certainly got better over time. Um, and let's see if I can zoom out a bit. There we go. Okay, Scorpius, you ready to eat that yet? She's kind of like half sitting. Um, like she's kind of sitting awkwardly with one of her legs farther back, like her middle pair sitting farther back, and then her arms are just resting on the paper. Um, Sometimes I feel like she doesn't realize what she grabbed was alive unless it starts like thrashing around. I mean, you can see the cricket breathing a little bit through the abdomen, um, but it hasn't really started moving much. I'm assuming she's not going to actually take a bite until it starts trying to crawl around and thrash a little bit. Um, and I try not to make it move for her, you know, like messing with it while she's holding it, because sometimes she'll just let go of it. Yeah, Scorpius, you know you're holding one, right? Oh, another thing about them, they can recognize faces. So like whenever I come back, oh yeah, she's getting ready to eat it. Whenever I come back from somewhere, um, like if I go to class or something and come back to my room, she always, as soon as I open the door, she turns in her cage. She turns and looks at the door. Oh, she just got kicked in the face. She turns, looks at the door, and then sees that it's me. She kind of looks at me, sees it's me, and then she just immediately turns her head back to whatever she was doing previously. They're actually super intelligent. Um, would you also consider mantids as messy eaters? Okay, so the thing is, they're said to be very clean. So one of the things is that, like, of course, you can see several parts that are falling down, like legs and wings, whatever. They basically only drop what they don't want to eat. So if something like seems to them like, oh, this is too crunchy, or oh, this doesn't seem nutritious, they'll drop it because they don't want to eat that. Like, see, she's going for the femur now because that's a very nutritious part of the cricket. Like, there's a lot of meat in there. Um, but anyway, so the thing is, they are typically really clean eaters. They're almost just like cats in the fact that after they eat, they clean themselves. Um, if I let her sit long enough without because for instance, she saw the other crickets moving, she turned her head and she saw those, so she knew that there were more, and so she got, instead of cleaning herself, she's like, I want another. So actually, if I move the crickets away and she finishes this one, she will actually start to like lick herself clean. She did it a little bit earlier after she finished the cricket, but she will basically like lick all of her arms, all of her like toes and all that stuff. She just licks everything with her mouth parts, cleans it all up, makes sure there's no guts on it. Um, and then they will actually like lick their front part of their like arm, the part that has the spines on it. They'll lick it and then they'll rub their eyes with it, just like a cat would like lick its paw and rub its ears. So it's really interesting, but they actually resemble cats in so many ways. But they're pretty clean eaters. The other thing, their poop is also like really clean. It's like it's a pellet and it's usually dry. So if you have them in a tank, all you have to do is really just like every once in a while, just take the mantis out and dump everything into the like all the pellets into the trash, which is another reason I don't have substrate or anything. Because it's really easy to just clean up. You just have all the cricket parts, which is usually just like a leg or two from each cricket, and then the pellets, which are just dry. They're kind of bluish gray, and like I say, it's really clean. So you just dump all those in the trash, and it's like easy cleanup. But yeah, they're relatively clean eaters. I mean, they leave parts here and there, but they generally are very good about eating everything. And yeah, they'll leave a wing or part of a leg, but they're almost always very clean eaters. And yeah, I've had a few times where they finish the entire cricket instead of just like leaving any bits behind. They'll eat the entire thing. But that one, there's a little juice coming out. Oh, I had an interesting thing happen. So I was feeding. My mantis hadn't fed in a few days, so I put 3 crickets in the cage, and I was supervising. So the first cricket walks by and Scorpius snatches it. And then as she's eating that one, she sees a second cricket walk by. So she holds on to the one cricket in her left arm and continues eating it. Then with her right arm, she reaches out and snatches the second cricket. And then she's holding two crickets at once and taking bites out of both of them. Then she sees a third cricket walking by, which she wanted to grab, but she knew that she couldn't hold the three at the same time. But they're kind of greedy. They don't want like, if they're hungry, they don't want their stuff to get away. They're going to hold on to it because they don't know when their next meal is. Although, with her, it's like she gets meals really regularly, like every day. Well, every few days, they'll put in like two or so crickets. And it depends on how plump she is because you kind of just want to keep an eye on their abdomen. And if they're kind of skinny, you just feed them more. And if they're kind of fat, then you just don't feed them for a while. But yeah, the thing is that with that, the interesting thing was with that, she was holding two crickets. The third cricket walks right up to her, climbs onto her back, and then just like climbed up her leg, climbed down her back, just crawled around a bit, dropped off, and then crawls in front of her and starts eating the other cricket she was holding. She's holding and eating one cricket. She's holding the second cricket, and the third cricket just climbs up and starts chewing on the second cricket. And it was the funniest thing ever to watch because sometimes the crickets, I don't know, I feed them goldfish crackers, which they actually really love. As soon as you put in a crushed up goldfish cracker, they just run to it and they start tearing it apart and eating it. It's kind of funny. But then sometimes they decide, hey, I'm going to be cannibalistic, and they'll eat each other. Sometimes if a cricket dies in the cricket cage, they will eat it. I've seen videos on Reddit of cockroaches that were being fed to the mantis. The cockroaches will eat each other. If a mantis is eating one, I've seen cockroaches join in and help the mantis by eating the cockroach that it was eating. You can actually see she has a bunch of goo on her arm right now, that little yellowish spot. After she finishes the cricket, or maybe before then, it just depends on if she notices before then, she's going to lick all that off of her and make sure she's nice and clean. Because yeah, as of now, she just got a little bit of guts just sitting on her arm. Oh yeah, also a funny story. So one time I saw on Reddit, somebody had a mantis. I think it was a Chinese mantis, but I can't remember. It could have been a Carolina. And they basically fed it like chicken. Like it probably not the best for it because it was like cooked chicken, like kind of grilled chicken. It wasn't like if it was like raw chicken, sure, that's meat, they can eat it. But it's the fact that it was just like grilled chicken is kind of interesting. Oh, that just went flying. Yeah, she's about to decapitate it. And there goes the head. Man, she's shoving that whole thing in her mouth. Then she's gonna slurp up that antenna like a spaghetti noodle. Or just go right into the rest of the carcass. Okay, I see. Yeah, she's still eating the antenna. Any questions or anything? Oh, there she goes, licking off her arm, that piece of goo that got stuck to her. I think Scorpius might be getting a little bit full. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll answer them. Now she'll probably lick herself clean. Yep, there she goes. Yep, cleaning herself. Okay, let's see. Zoom out. Okay, I'm gonna mess with her a little bit because I gotta go, so I'm going to pick her up. But I want to show you really quick, if I can. Come here, Scorpius. Yep, come here. Okay, so now she has a. You gotta stay still. She's really plump. Well, she doesn't really. Pickle let me actually show off her wings. This one, Scorpius, hasn't really done that yet, but I don't know. Pickle was so much more calm too. Pickle would just gently take things from me. When I gave her cricket, she'd just so slowly grab it. Scorpius is violent. She just like violently snatches it. But yeah. Yeah, now she's nice and plump. 2 crickets in her, plus whatever she still hadn't digested from earlier. Oh, you want to do your trick? No? Yeah, do your trick. Yeah. Here. You want to do it? Come on. You can do it. Or is it too close to you? It's too close to you. You're going to walk over. There you go. You see it? Look up. You ready? Yeah, you ready? Up. No, you got it. Not down. Why are you going that way? Want to reach for the camera? Yeah, you want uppies? Uppies. There you go, you can climb on it. Okay, well, thanks for watching, guys. I gotta go. My dining hall is closing in a few minutes, so yeah. Okay. Bye, guys.